Since today is the 75th anniversary of D-Day, along with the 3rd year anniversary of the release of Hearts of Iron 4, I thought it was appropriate to show you guys the correct way to do naval invasions after the Man the Guns release. I'm going to be covering a lot of things like how to actually plan your naval invasions, the correct technology and doctrines you need to do a naval invasion, and pretty much everything you need to know to correctly invade, whether it's Germany, whether it's Spain, whether it's the Soviet Union's, pretty much any kind of naval invasion mission you might need. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into this video. So now after playing for 3.5 hours just to set up this naval invasion, by the way, please subscribe because that took a long time. Basically, you want to figure out where would be a good zone for you to launch your invasion. So as the United States, normally a lot of people, if they're in multiplayer, will just invade Normandy, but let's think about this for a second. If you look over here at Normandy, you can see here it's a level 7 infrastructure, which is really good. That would support a lot of troops. But then if you left click a port, which you can see with these little naval icons, by the way, you can look in the bottom left and it'll tell you what level port they actually have there. So we can see it's a level 3 port here, there's a level 5 port here, and a level 1 port in Dieppe. So this has about 3 ports. It's got decent amount of supply. It's got really good infrastructure so we could funnel supplies in through it, but we're probably going to be limited by the number of ports. Then if we look over here in Brittany, we can look and you can see, again, it's got no port selected right now, so it says 0. But then we click Brest and we have a level 10 port with a level 6 infrastructure, which would be great. Then over here, if we look, we have a level 4, and then over here, we have a level 1. So right now, it looks like Brittany would be a better target than Normandy because of the level infrastructure is higher, but it's got a lower port level. So if we get over here, at least we would have more supply output starting. Now what you need to do is start to scout. Basically, you can do this by clicking a little task force like I have here, put them in a totally different fleet. By the way, if you try this way and you try to send them to the port, it won't work. You have to actually manually select the task force here and then right click. What I will do is I will right click, hold shift, and just, why will it not let me do it? Okay. For some reason not letting me do it. Basically, you send a task force to the coast and you can actually see what they're doing with their division. Okay, now it works. If you're not in a port, you can't hold shift down. So, okay, there we go again. It's not, oh, whatever. Alright, I'll just leave it like that. So basically, now that we're scouting the coastline, we can see there's actually no enemy troops in Cherbourg, which would make it really easy to attack there. The ports are barely guarded over here. So we know this would be a really good spot. If you're in multiplayer, after you've scouted, by the way, send your group back to port. Now that we know where we're going to invade, which is going to be this port in Cherbourg, and we're going to try Dieppe and Le Havre, and then pop a couple troops down here because they're only guarding the coast, or the ports, we'll be able to take out Brest pretty easily. So now that we know we're going to naval invade, we need to figure out what templates we're going to use. So I've only got a few templates here I'm going to use for this naval invasion, and by all means you can copy them and use them in multiplayer if you want. They're very basic. We have, oh, this is supposed to be a 20 width, but I'll leave it for the video. This should be a 20 width, but this is going to be our main infantry division we're going to use to drop in there. Then we have a National Guard division. We're not actually using this anywhere, or we shouldn't be. I don't know what unit has it deployed, but it shouldn't be there. Then we have a tank division with horrible organization, but it's going to work great against the infantry. Then we have Marines. And then we have garrison brigades, which are not even over here. Then we have 3 different types of paratroopers that have different rules. Now, a lot of the time people just make a 20 width paratrooper, and if your server only allows you to use a 20 width, then use a 20 width. But I have 3 goals I want my paratroopers to accomplish. Either encircle somewhere, cause problems, and make people pull away from the port, which if the enemy has a garrison order, it will pull all of their troops away, or at least the majority of them, so they can contain the problem, and then some of them to actually capture cities. So basically here, oops, wrong one, we have our basic garrison, or our basic paratrooper division, which is made to pull troops away. Then we have a spam kind of paratrooper, which is right here. It's very basic, it'll die very quickly, and that's just made to pull more infantry away from the port. These guys up here are actually made to hold, and then these guys here are made to actually engage other divisions and try to help with encirclements. Now, to actually launch a naval invasion, you're going to need 70% naval superiority, which you can get kind of in a cheesy way if you put your ships on naval invasion escort, which is actually, I'll show you the mission really quick. If you do this naval invasion support, it's going to end up kind of bugging out a little bit and giving you naval superiority even without the most ships you need. And if you do convoy escort, it does something similar as well. As you can see up here, naval supremacy 100%, even though we only have a 23% efficiency for convoy escort there. So those two missions will give you naval superiority as long as no other enemy navy ships are in those zones. You can, I think, have 5 destroyers and it will still give you naval invasions or naval supremacy in that zone. So back to what I was saying though about this, if we go down here, where is it? Oh, did I lose it? Yes, I did. Where'd it go? I just saw it. There it is. Wait a minute. There it is. Okay, sorry about that. So this first tech here will actually give you 10 troops or divisions you can use to navally invade. Now, if you go over to the right, this one gives you another 40. So if you have these two techs, you can use a max of 50 divisions to naval invade. Now, it also cuts your naval preparation in half in naval invasion defense, which I'll cover in some other video. And then this one here will give you 100. So you can have a max of 150 divisions for a naval invasion, and you'll also get faster amphibious preparation speed by going and getting these 3 technologies. Most of the time people think no matter where you're naval invading, you will need Marines. That's actually not accurate. The only time you will ever need a Marine is if they're going to be attacking a port. In our situation here, because they're not really guarding the entire coastline, we can get away with using basic infantry divisions and try to encircle ports and attack that way. So let me go and show you the Marine division here. All this does is give you bonuses for attacking forts, which are for naval ports essentially, then amphibious landing attacks. So say if we wanted to try to land here, we would actually probably need Marines because they would give the bonuses. But then the rest of our infantry divisions, like these infantry divisions, our tank divisions, they can easily land along the entire coast with no problems whatsoever. So deciding whether to use paratroopers or not is going to pretty much almost 100% depend on where you're going to naval invade. Now, paratroopers, if you're going to be trying to use them for the sake of an actual naval invasion and not something that I was saying for those different templates earlier, one's made to cause problems, one's made to pull troops away, most of the time to actually use them in a serious situation is going to be to try to help encircle somewhere where you're going to navally invade. So say for example, if you have Marines and the Germans were guarding the entire coastline up through Cherbourg and Brest and all this, right? Basically, a good idea for paratroopers to encircle a bunch of divisions actually, could be to drop 120 width division here, 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 and here. Now what you would do is you would try to link up by using your Marines to invade here and here. Now, because you have a paratrooper here and here, if the Marines successfully invade here and here, basically anything in this area would be encircled, and then they would hopefully be able to hold while you get a landing in that port. Now, the other goal of using paratroopers is going to be to pull troops away. So the decoy ones I was showing here, you could probably drop them in zones around Paris, near cities, forest, areas that would actually give defensive bonuses behind rivers, all that. Now, what would happen is because those guys land, anything that's on a garrison order will be pulled back to try to fight those guys off. If they're set on guarding victory points and all those kind of things, or even a coastline, they will pull troops away from those areas and then try to engage the paratroopers. Now, for the third one here, this is the 20 width I was talking about for actually dropping in there. This is the decoy one again, and this is the basic one that you can decide whether or not to actually use it to try to get near cities and hold out, and this one's actually made for attacking and defending. So the majority of the time, whenever you're going to be trying to naval invade, you're going to more than likely need at least fighter support. Preferably also have CAS with your infantry whenever they're going to be naval invading. Now, a really simple way of doing this that I see most people do is they'll just click the Air Force, they're going to look at the zone they're going to attack. We're going to go for Northern France in those zones I said earlier. So I would just right click here, I would tell our CAS to go here, problem solved, right? A way easier thing to do so that once you actually do land, you don't have to pause the game and start moving your planes and all this other stuff. And then if your Air Force or your airports over here start getting bombed, if you're a multiplayer, you're going to lose your airfield levels and then you're going to stop getting as much air support. It's going to be really hard to micromanage this. A way easier thing to do is just simply decide what divisions are going to naval invade. And say, for example, we know we're going to use these Marines, we're going to use some of these divisions, probably the first 2, and then we're going to use our tank division up here. So let's go ahead and use our Marines right here as an example. Since we want to give them air support and fighter support through CAS and just regular fighters, we're going to right click, and now they're going to follow those Marines wherever they go. So then we're also going to select probably 200 casts. By the way, the optimal number is 60. I'm just doing this because it's easy. And just like that, we have planes that are going to support our troops when they start to navally invade, and they're also going to follow them while they advance through Europe. Now let's talk about what a huge mistake it is to strategic bomb where you're about to invade. So most of the time people will say it's a good idea to strategic bomb in multiplayer and single player, and it is normally, but if you're going to naval invade, it's a really bad idea to strategic bomb that zone. Even if you manually tell it to target, say instead of infrastructure we told it to manually target airfields and civilian factories, the infrastructure and the ports can still get damaged, which is what you're going to need to have supply for your troops to gain their organization back and everything else. Something a lot smarter to do is to figure out what zones surround the area you want to take. So for example, we want to invade northern France. So the areas surrounding it would be Western Germany, Alpine, Southern France, and then the Benelux. So what we could do is tell our bombers to strategic bomb the infrastructure in the Benelux. Then we could tell them to strategic bomb Western Germany, Alpine, and Southern France, and now that way all the infrastructure in those zones is going to be getting damaged, so they're going to have less supply when they try to defend against our naval invasion in northern France, but we're not going to be damaging the areas that we're going to be moving through. So now that I'm getting ready to set up our naval invasion, I want to show you guys a really cool tip. Well, actually two things. First off, since Man the Guns came out, you can now set up a naval invasion from the same port and have it hit multiple areas. So we could send one of our divisions from this port here, then we could send another one here, and we can keep moving down the line. That was fixed with Man the Guns, so you don't have to keep using, multiple different ports for different naval invasions. You don't need to deploy like 50 ports anymore to do this. Now, let me show you guys this really cool tip that a lot of people in the multiplayer community know. So if you end up using one division at a time, as you can see, it's only going to take 3 days for all of our naval invasions to be able to launch. Now, if we were to, say, for example, get the exact same amount of divisions and try to deploy them, if we build them and do it all at the same time, it's going to take 14 days. So we're actually saving 11 days with 4 divisions. And if you're going to be doing a huge naval invasion with all the troops that you're about to see, this is going to save you a lot of time. So now that we are ready to launch our naval invasion, let's talk about doing the naval invasion support with a task force. Now, basically what you would do, and it's very simple. Now, by the way, remember, whenever you do this, it will send all the ships in that zone to a port until the naval invasion launches. So if it's in kind of like a hostile zone, make sure you have planes up guarding that port so you don't get, base striked, essentially. So what you would do is you select the task force altogether just by clicking the guy right here, then right click, or well, left click Naval Invasion Support, and click the zone where your troops are going to be going through. Now, as you can tell here, we have paratroopers that are going to be going in and all this other kind of stuff, and I'll show you guys how to do that in a second. But I'm going to go ahead and talk to you guys about something else that's kind of part of this, and that's doing a decoy naval invasion. I'm not going to do that for the sake of the video because it's going to make no sense, but pretty much you can launch 1 or 2 small invasions somewhere and you'll draw their attention away. So if you're in multiplayer, which is the only place that'll work, and it's still kind of iffy, say for example you have enough divisions you're willing to sacrifice maybe 10 to 15 really decently okay divisions that look like you're trying, maybe you could land them around Bordeaux, and then if the German player actually sends their tanks down there, once they start fighting around Bordeaux, then launch your naval invasion. Now for the last part of this video, and that is the timing. Now you may notice I'm losing, or will have lost, quite a few paratroopers. The reason I've lost those paratroopers is because my timing was not good. I ended up dropping the paratroopers early, and because I dropped them early and my troops didn't actually start the landing and I didn't have them all done yet, I ended up losing the paratroopers. Make sure you understand the timing and have everything go at once compared to 1 or 2 divisions at a time. Now, something else incredibly important as well, look and see if there are storms and bad weather in a region. Now, the reason is let's try to find something here. Oh, here we go. If there's rain, storms, anything, it can really affect the plane strikes, the ground support, and all that, and that can cause issues for your troops when they start to actually attack. So try to find areas that aren't really engaged with any storms and stuff like that, which, as you can see in Normandy, we're good to go. So now we're going to go and drop our paratroopers like I showed earlier. Are they, Okay, in case people didn't know, paratroopers are actually really broken, so I'm just going to launch the invasion. So let's go ahead and get all this going, and I'll show you guys how well it's going to work. Go. By the way, MacArthur as a general is awesome, isn't it? So as you can see here, because we have naval invasion support, their defense is pulled down for the shore bombardment. They have the lost air superiority, essentially, so we have the better hand in that. Don't forget to do force attacks as well to help your chances of actually landing. But, boom. As you can see, we know that port was undefended, so now our tanks can breach out a little bit. This area here is not very well defended. Alright, I don't really care about the Philippines. I'm doing a video. Then, once you land, it's very important to try to take the ports as quick as possible, because every minute you don't have a port is another minute that your supply is low. I'm actually really surprised I'm not breaking through that. These divisions have almost 800 soft attack. But anyway, so as you can tell here, we've pretty much had a successful D-Day. And now pretty much we would just start putting all of our troops on a frontline order. Once you land, make sure you... If you have enough ports, you can actually pretty much totally, completely ignore the zones that you were already dropping in. Just delete your naval invasion missions and stuff like that. Make a front line really quick on your troops. And just start telling them to move forward aggressively until the rest of your troops get there. That way, any areas in the line that are not covered are going to get filled really quick. And the troops are just going to start marching all throughout the place. And then all the extra troops you had in that zone are going to go through. But make sure you don't leave something like this unguarded like I just did. Anyway guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys next time. Stay awesome.